the fundamental responsibility of government being welfare and security. In Oworo, Shoki to be precise, it was as if the government was waging war against its people. Armed police, task force were deployed into communities and they were shooting live ammunitions at people. The Babajide Sanwo-Olu-led government through the Nigerian police force, the Lagos task force, unleashed. The footages are terrible. Children died, even babies died. It is an human rights disaster. Let's talk about the Nigerian police force. What is the history of its creation? Its aim and objective is to protect the colonialists against the colonized, which were the Nigerian people. The immediate instinct of the police is to protect the Nigerian officials against the people who elected them. Police violence was so terrible in this country that it created an uprising that almost swept away the Nigerian ruling class. Abacha stole so much money that he's still dashing us money. But whatever I'm saying now, it is not the position of me, it is not the opinion of the Take It Back movement, it is the position of the law. What we have is that we have an institution of lawbreakers, not lawmakers. Burna Boy is far more useful than the entire Nigerian government combined. State police is good, community policing is good, but it will not solve the problem of human rights violation in this country.
The number one stop for sharp analysis, informed conversations, and the stories shaping our country. My name is Roland Imoira.
And I am Oluwadamilola Ologmo, saying welcome to the current on Melody 107.7 FM. This is a program where we give you exciting topics of issues happening in the country, and today we will be doing it with you. Remember, the current comes on radio from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. on Melody 107.7 FM on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. I am Oluwadamilola Ologmo. You can join us live on Facebook, however, on Melody 107.7 FM.
Alright, today we are zooming in on an important national conversation as the world marks Human Rights Day 2025 this week. Human rights in Nigeria, the gains, the gaps, as well as the way forward. Okay, I think you should do an introduction for us, Dami. Or should I go ahead?
Okay. Nigeria has made a commitment to uphold human rights, freedom of expression, dignity, equality, justice, and protection for all citizens. Yet, every day, stories emerge of violations, institutional failures, unlawful detentions, abuses by state and non-state actors, and challenges in enforcement. But it isn't all gloom. Civil society efforts, legal reforms, advocacy movements, and public awareness have grown stronger, and today we will examine the progress made, the gaps that still exist, and what must be done to secure Nigeria where human rights are truly respected.
Alright, to help us and break this down, we are joined by someone deeply involved in rights advocacy and civic engagement. Our guest today is Juwon Sunyanwu, is the national coordinator of the Take It Back movement, a frontline voice in youth civic participation and social justice advocacy in Nigeria.
Welcome, Juwon. Thanks for joining us occurring this day.
Before we go on, let's just quickly take a rundown of the prologue of our program today. Human rights remain at the backbone of any functioning society. When citizens are protected, societies thrive. When rights are ignored, development stalls, frustration grows, and instability takes root. Today's discussion is about understanding where Nigeria stands, identifying what is broken, acknowledging what has improved, and considering the urgent steps that must be taken to strengthen human dignity in our nation. Mr. Sanwo-Olu, let's just begin with the context this afternoon. How would you describe the general state of human rights in Nigeria as it is today, from your perspective?
Well, I would go more than speaking from my perspective. I will speak also from the perspective of the experience of ordinary people in the country, what they've seen, what we've heard, and what we have all seen. And the scorecard before us is that it is terrible. Judging by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, it talks about the fundamental responsibility of government being welfare and security. In all of this, governance has failed. I'm not even going to go far. I'm going to use a recent incident in Lagos, in Oworo, Shoki to be precise. It was as if the government was waging war against its people. You would the way with which armed police task force were deployed into communities, Shoki communities, low-income communities, people who struggled to build their houses. You understand? Who have lived there for decades, some 2 decades, some 3 decades, some as far back as 6 decades, invested all of their lifestyle there. Police invaded this community and they were shooting live ammunitions at people. You would think that it was, I don't know if you have seen the footages in Gaza. Then you now combine it with the war going on in Ukraine. That is the kind of war the Babajide Sanwo-Olu-led government through the Nigerian police force, the Lagos task force, unleashed. The footages are terrible. Children died, even babies died.
You mean in the Oworo Shoki?
In Oworo Shoki, it is an human rights disaster. What is going on in Oworo Shoki? And to put it into context, our organization, the Take It Back movement, have been at the front line of opposing what we can best, some have described it as forced eviction. Yeah, that is touching it up with English language. But what is going on is complete land grabbing. In fact, they already designed the kind of estate they want to.
Is there facts to prove all this?
Villa.
Is there facts to prove what you're saying?
Elite Villa, that is the name of the estate. It is, everybody knows it. It is public. They displayed it openly. It was an open display of impunity, disregard for the rule of law. You understand this? As despite the fact that the government went into killing spree and mass demolition in the Shoki, despite the subsisting court order. It was Barrister Femi Falana was one of the lawyers who instituted the case against the government, got an injunction, but the government does not give a fuck about Thank you. So I am just speaking based on how passionate. I mean, they didn't care about the injunction. They went in. As a matter of fact, I recall, if you listen to the news, Femi Falana challenging the Lagos state government for going out with the demolition. If you see, you don't want to imagine. I wish you see some of those videos, and you will just conclude that, look, it appears that the Nigerian state have suspended human rights in this country. Yet, we have a state that battles with one of the highest rates of homelessness in the country. In the entire country, deals with a stage of homelessness of, I think, about 30 million people are homeless in this country, and I think that is even to be conservative with the figure. But then Lagos State is topping it. About in a state that can't guarantee shelter for its citizens, killing people for daring to defend their right to shelter, even jailing them. It was only last week that we got out over 30 persons. The Lagos state government jailed, put in Kirikiri, including women and young people. Kirikiri for protesting to defend their homes. That, look, Lagos state, you don't have a right to demolish our homes. We have court injunctions. We are legitimately occupied here. So this were engaged. So rather than the government engaging the community in peaceful dialogue, they are engaging them with guns and canisters. That is the state of human rights in the country. How about we go into insecurity? Does that also count as the extensive and the unfortunate state of human rights in the human rights violation in the country? Some have described it as a Christian genocide, but what is happening? It's more than just a Christian genocide. It is a nationwide genocide, a genocide against poor and oppressed people of this country, with the government not doing anything about it. Until, in fact, as a matter of fact, the state of insecurity in this country was what the Take It Back movement had protested, or to including the End Bad Governance protest. You recall the End Bad Governance protest. It was a cry to end insecurity and poverty in the country. When mobilization for that protest happened in June, I was abducted by the Nigerian police. Last year, I was abducted by a combined team of police and DSS deployed all the way from Abuja. They had an helicopter waiting to take me all the way down to Abuja. Despite abducting me, the then commissioner for police, kept denying that they had me in custody. Whereas while I was in their custody, I was blindfolded, I was being beaten right in their custody. And it got so worse that openly they admitted to have used digital means, unlawful surveillance, to track me by first going after someone very close to me. These are some of the unlawful means they used to silence civic voices in this country. But that was as if that was not enough. During the End Bad Governance protest, human rights organizations like Amnesty International documented over 21 deaths, people that were killed by the Nigerian state in the course of the protest. Over 2,000 people were arrested in the course of that protest, including minors that were to be charged for treason. They started collapsing in courts, which of course created a public uproar that eventually enforced something quite unprecedented in this country. It forced the government, despite a court order that have remanded some of these people in prison, minors, children. You understand? The government had to shamefully withdraw the case from court. Until date, we still have 11 young people who are still standing trial for prison because they protested insecurity and poverty in this country. They will be appearing in court again tomorrow. I think tomorrow is 10th.
Yes.
Yeah. So they will be appearing in court again tomorrow. In Abuja. This is the state of human rights. But then everything we have been protesting for, some guy from the US, that's the way I like it because I don't like his politics. Some guy in the US tweeted and said they were going to invade Nigeria, gun blazing. You understand? Some orange man there, just by a tweet, then the government started running helter-skelter, knocking their heads over each other over issues that Nigerian people have been protesting. So why must we wait for some imperialist power whom its citizens are even rejecting in this country? We have to wait for such situation before we decisively take action over issues of concern, over mass genocide. And it is not only terrorists that are unleashing genocide on the Nigerian people. There was a genocide in this country in October 2020. You understand? So the history of the Nigerian government for over the last, that is the APC government, since 2015 up till now, it has not changed. Rather, it is escalating to a situation, to a scary situation. It is the reason till date. But let me just leave it that way. So it's, you won't get off this conversation when we talk about in this country. The Nigerian press now attend protests as if they are going to war. They are wearing helmets. They are wearing bulletproof to go to because they want to go and cover protests. What does that tell you? So protest ground become a barricade of war, whereas the original barricade of war, which is the place that contains insurgents, people who are killing Nigerians by the day and by the night, have become untouchable places. Suddenly Nigeria now gathered strength to launch airstrikes, precision airstrike against so-called Pukupists in Benin Republic. What happened to launching precision airstrike against people who are killing Nigerians? They know them, they know where they are negotiating with them. But Nigerians were protesting at the terrorists. Come on.
Okay, so let's come back to the human rights issue. Now, to what extent do you think political structure, do you think it affects human rights in Nigeria?
Our political structure, as it is now, is not designed to protect the Nigerian people, even their human rights. As a matter of fact, if you look at if you are talking about protecting human rights, we are talking about police respecting human dignity, human rights of the Nigerian people, right? We are talking about the judiciary protecting this right. We are talking about the executive, the parliament protecting these rights. But what have these institutional tiers of government done? I can begin to mention them one after the other. Let me start with I will start with the judiciary. It was the judiciary sometime last year that entertained a case where the Nigerian police have taken us in a home, and then flew her all the way to Abuja, jailed her up to the period of Christmas. You understand? Under what? Under the Cybercrime Act. And what exactly the lady did? On October 20th, the lady joined orchestra to create 50-year of Endsars Memorial. People who were killed in the course of those protests, they were doing remembrance for them. Then the police unleashed violence. And under the pain of violence she withstood, she in fact was actually harassed, beaten. It is within the context of that pain she started training courses at Tinubu, at Tinubu, at the IG of police, at the Lagos State Commissioner. That was our offense. Because of that, because of courses, I don't know where courses become an offense in this country. You know, I don't
Some people might pick offense with they will ask you to what's what, especially when you're on the media space.
But it's free speech. You understand? And then
but they will tell you that your rights end where another one
but it is free speech. You understand? It is freedom of, I mean, we are talking about individuals who carried Jonathan corpses in 2012 occupied Nigeria. You understand? We are talking about individuals who, after losing elections, says they will unleash. I mean, there are newspaper publications of what Buhari, statements of Buhari. I mean, everywhere. You understand? So, but a nurse withstood violence, sexual harassment, and then she started draining courses, and because of that, you wasted state resources, millions of taxpayers' money that could have fixed something much more reasonable. You wasted it to pick out in Ogun State and took out the way to Abuja, wasted state resources to prosecute her under the Cybercrime Act. In fact, that is one of it took intervention of our movement to challenge them in court and on the streets to ensure the lady was released. So this is the judiciary sanctioning attempt to gag free speech. It was the same thing they did with Dele Farotimi, because he wrote a book that a big man in Ekiti does not like. What is his name now? Afe Babalola. He was driven all the way from his office in Lagos on the island and taken all the way from Ekiti. It was a judge that sanctioned that use of the abuse of police by big men to oppress people they consider as small. And it was the National Assembly that passed a Cybercrime Act which runs at variance with the Nigerian Constitution, with in fact section 24 of the that part of the Cybercrime Act runs at variance with freedom of speech. And this is the part this is the section through which the Nigerian judiciary, the Nigerian state, the judiciary and police have used to harass opposition voices like Showore, Dele Farotimi, the nurse I have just mentioned, including young people who are expressing their opinion on social media. People like Seeking, people like Raye. You understand? So what have we? It was the National Assembly, it was the Speaker of the House that introduced a bill to the National Assembly, which primarily is saying to criminalize protest and free speech. It took up of the Nigerian people, especially young people, dragging the Speaker of the House to force him to withdraw, that bill. Let's talk about the Nigerian police force. What is the history of its creation? It was called Royal Constabulary, British Constabulary. Later it was Northern Constabulary, but fundamentally, when it was created as British Constabulary, its aim and objective is to protect the colonialists against the colonized, which were the Nigerian people, so that for every time the Nigerian people protested, the interest of the British Constabulary was not to protect the Nigerian people, but to protect the interest of the British who were colonizing us. But unfortunately, even when the British left and the police changed to the Nigerian police force, it did not fundamentally drop its ideological disposition that means protecting the elite against the people. It continued on that trajectory. There's a reason. When people are expressing their view on social media against the Nigerian government, against government officials, the immediate instinct of the police is to protect the Nigerian officials against the people who elected them. Because if we are to go by social contract, the social contract between citizens and elected officials upon which democracy is constructed, it is that people who are leading us are supposed to be the servants. We are supposed to be the bosses. But today, what is the situation?
Let me ask you now, from your experience in advocacy, which is quite vast and spans over hundreds of years now, which human rights issue surface most frequently among citizens of Nigeria?
It is police brutality. It was, in fact, the police violence was so terrible in this country that it created an uprising that almost swept away the Nigerian ruling class. When Buhari was interviewed in June 11, 2021, he gave the reason why he sanctioned the shootings of the protesters, even though he didn't say it that way. He says those young people, they want to remove him from office. That was what he perceived. You understand? Whereas Nigerian young people are more concerned about systemic injustice, systemic overhaul. If the government of Buhari represented it, it is not the first time we are seeing people demanding their presidents to resign. We have seen it. We have seen in even advanced and so-called, even in countries in Africa where leaders have resigned on popular demands of their people. You understand? So currently, the Take It Back movement is leading a campaign against a torture center in Imo State. It is called Tiger Base. Have you heard of Tiger Base?
Yes, Tiger Base is the current reigning. It's on everywhere in the social media, on the media space right now.
Yes, that is the campaign. That is the campaign we're leading, and we are calling for the disbandment of Tiger Base. According to the research we conducted together with independent researchers, we found out, and this is to be conservative, that Tiger Base has cost the lives of over 200 people. This is a place where that practically does everything that provoked the Endsars protest of 2020: extrajudicial murder, forced labor, sexual harassment, torture, the kind of torture where they hang people upside down, the kind of torture you watch in the movie, the use of electric shock. You understand? This is a police division that have gone rogue, such that no human rights commission can access them. Like Ashake will say, they don't hear anything. They only hear go, they don't hear come. You understand? That's it. And such a rogue unit that has no respect for court orders, that has no respect for the Nigerian constitution, that has no respect for the dignity of the Nigerian people, does not deserve to exist. And it is the same way the Nigerian people ended SARS and disbanded SARS in 2020. The Nigerian people will disband Tiger Base in Imo State. You will recall, that was the base where Oworo, the NSA president, when he was attacked in Imo State, that was where he was taken to. So, and we want to implore you in the media to help amplify, because even journalists have suffered, lawyers have suffered fate that cannot be explained. Trauma. So we owe the Nigerian people a duty to amplify every such torture centers that are in this country, starting with Tiger Base.
And this is still the current on Melody 107.7 FM. We are live on Facebook at Melody FM 1077. However, the studio lines are officially open for you to ask our guests questions concerning our topic today. The studio lines are 0704 800 1077 or 0906-201-1077. However, we are live on Facebook at Melody FM 1077. Now, coming back to our guests, now you said something about a nurse trying to mark the remembrance of the lives lost 5 years ago after the Endsars protest, and then due to the torture, she expressed herself saying some words. Now let's come back to freedom of expression. The question now goes, how do you access the protection of freedom of expression in the country?
Just as I've said before, the only people striving now to protect freedom of expression in this country is the Nigerian people themselves. The institutions that are meant to protect freedom of expression are more concerned about the president, as I've explained, the courts, the police, the National Assembly. Now we have a parliament of Nigerian people on social media, on Twitter, on TikTok, where Nigerian people are forcing government officials, forcing our institutions to do exactly what is right with regards to. We have seen very interesting organizing on the social media, and we have also seen a situation where social movements in this country, such as the TIB, the Take It Back movement, engaged state officials. For instance, there is a social media bill that our intervention cancelled in 2020. That was a social media bill that had prescribed death by hanging.
For what offense?
Just for fake news, and several other offenses. Because I don't know if anybody who gives fake news more than the Nigerian government. It's the Nigerian government that will say that we'll be talking about development when in actual sense we are hungry. That's fake news. So in this country we have in this country the Nigerian people have been, look at the Endsars as I mentioned earlier. So the Nigerian people have been more at the front lines of protecting themselves more than the institutions that they have elected in office. It is the more reason why we all collectively need to work together to engage these institutions, both in protest on social media and in whatever the lawful forms within our disposal. Today, Nigerians are no longer in the illusion that we are in a democracy. Have you observed? I'll tell you. Did you study the social media algorithm reactions from social media when there was a news reported that there was an attempted coup in this country?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, people were jubilating that why didn't the coup succeed? We've seen how people are jubilating over coups elsewhere, the attempted one in Benin Republic, the ones that have been happening in the Sahel, and people are anxiously hoping something similar happens in Nigeria. Even they are thinking that will be the revolution they need. To be clear, in personal capacity and the Take It Back movement, we are completely opposed to military coup in this country, because we are students of history and we are convinced that what brought us into this stage is actually decades of military rule. Every institutional decay we witnessed under civilian government did not start under them. You understand? There were patterns that the civilian government eventually came to escalate. Rather than de-escalating, they made this institutional wreckage worse. Than till date, Abacha stole so much money that he's still dashing us money. That is still refunding some of this money in this country. That is how much the military looted this country without checks. You understand? But we have a generation that Anybody who was born in 1999, for instance, it doesn't. Is by now they are 26, right? They did not witness military rule. They did not. I was also young during military. I didn't really know what it looked like. I didn't experience it, but we read history. You understand? And we saw some of the egregious human rights abuses that happened under the military. And also, we have also tried to conceptualize what African people are rejecting everywhere. And the statistics, Afrobarometer, I don't know if you know about them. They carried out a statistic about whether people still prefer one man rule or majority rule. You understand? Most people still rejected a rule by that is dictatorship. But that thing gives us an insight that what African people are actually opposing, what people in Nigeria are opposing, it's not necessarily not that they want military. What they actually opposing, perhaps they do not know, is what we have diagnosed as neoliberal democracy. Do you know what that is? Neoliberal democracy is a democracy, the kind of democracy that protects only the interest of minority. That is democracy for the elite, dictatorship for the poor. You understand? Socialism for the elite, capitalism for the poor. It is the elite will give themselves tax holidays. They will award the wicked is awarding lands to his friends and his children, but they are demolishing lands in people's houses in Shoki and Ibadan without compensation. You understand? They are big banks. People like big people in this country. They are getting huge loans. They are cancelling their debts. You understand? They are making policies that will make them richer. Whereas for the poor people, they say we should. They are giving themselves subsidy, but they say poor people don't deserve subsidy. So that will not be where it is if his businesses did not get subsidies from government. Dangote refinery got huge subsidies from government. But when it comes to subsidies for the ordinary people, it suddenly becomes evil. Oh, they are poor. There are some people who are thieving subsidy. That is why we should remove first. How about you arrest the people who are stealing subsidy, prosecute them and give poor people subsidy? Same way you are giving yourself subsidy. That is what the Nigerian people are rejecting. You understand? And so it's by our standard, Nigerians have rejected Tinubu's kind of democracy. We don't want it. What Nigerians are calling for, that they have expressed in protest and in various platforms, is a popular democracy. The kind of democracy that gives jobs today. Youth unemployment in this country is at peak. In fact, so that's what do you know that over 96% of people in this country are into informal work. People who are not doing work
employed,
yes, they're in the informal sector. Majority of them are even young people. People who are organizers, market women, people who now call themselves social media influencers. It's now a job now. You understand? People social media. I recall I stumbled on a Twitter page. On a Twitter video of this young boy in TikTok. Very lousy guy. Pella. You understand? Who was saying that they taxed him 31.
Okay, I remember.
Yes, 31 million naira.
Yeah, I think so.
Wow, what rights does government have to tax people who start jobs for themselves? People who you didn't send to school, people you didn't provide jobs for, and now that huge population who skillfully found employment for themselves in informal spaces, they are going to be taxed by Tinubu's tax reform bill.
And also, the state is saying they will tax night workers, the female night workers. Yes.
So they will tax. The one of the most laughable part of that, sex work in Nigeria is still illegal. So they don't even care. So to even for to tax sex work first, you have to make it legal, and then you tax it. But now you don't even care. I think they are also taxing terrorists. they are taxing. Because with the way this government is going, it is not interested in rather than giving poor people subsidy, they are taxing them. We are our own today. We are our own water supply, our own NEPA. We have generator, we have inverters, we have everything. We are the ones supplying water to ourselves. Communities don't have water. So I don't know.
Well, I'd like to ask Mr. Songlu, what challenges do activists and civil society groups now, like yours, the Take It Back movement, face when advocating for rights?
Yeah, I mentioned it is generally repression. We face threat of arrest, threat of repression, and threat of unlawful surveillance. The government admitted at the Lagos State Commissioner for Police Office, the Lagos State Command, they admitted to have unlawful surveillance on me. You understand? I describe it as unlawful because, of course, it's not lawful. So it means they are tracking my communications, they are tracking my phones, they are tracking where I am, everywhere. They admitted this at their state command, and they said that was how they were able to arrest me. Oh, I won't call it that. I will describe it as an abduction because that was not an arrest. Yeah, so these are some of the risks we face. The risk of torture, being attacked, being beaten. So these are some of what people like us have witnessed in the past. The kind of beatings, attacks, torture that get us to hospitals, spending days. There are situations where till date some of us have injuries that we definitely may not be able to recover from. These are the kind of risk activists face in this country, and we're happy to keep facing it so long as there is still a need to ensure we get social justice in this country. And I will say that I am very happy by the wave of consciousness that we have experienced so far among not just the young people of Africa, but particularly people of this country. And it is clear, even to the Nigerian ruling class, that between the oppressed and the oppressor, the battle line is drawn.
How can security institutions now be strengthened to respect civil liberties while trying to still maintain law and order in the society?
The security institutions do not need my advice. They have a constitution to follow already. There have been several court orders in this country that I will give you an instance. After the attack of protesters in October 20 last year, my organization, the Take It Back movement, we went to court and we challenged the government over the attacks on protesters, and the court ruled that the police had no right to attack protesters. They have no right to disperse a protest. That it was their job to protect protesters. But this was not even the first time the Federal High Court have communicated this. In a case instituted between the ANPP and the police, I think it was in 2003 or 2007, instituted by Buhari and the ANPP. The court ruled the same thing, that it is the job that, number one, citizens do not need to inform police that we want to protest. That it is a fundamental right of citizens to protect, and the only duty police have in a protest, it is not to arrest, it is not to disperse, but to protect protesters, and to ensure that protests are conducted in such a way that nobody is harmed. So that when you are having protests, it is normal that you have police there, but their duty would not be to shoot tear gas, to shoot tear canisters, or to shoot live ammunition, but to protect protesters. So these are whatever I'm saying now. It is not the position of me. It is not the opinion of the Take It Back movement. It is the position of the law. And what we have had so far is a lawless institution that has very uncommon disregard for our constitution.
Okay, coming to another question, because time is not on our side. Now, many Nigerians believe enforcement, not laws, is a problem in Nigeria. Now, how accurate is that?
There are laws that are problematic, like I rightly mentioned, the Cybercrime Act is one of those laws. But yeah, it is true. But it is true. Enforcement. In fact, if you look at when I started my intervention, I started with talking about the chapter 2 of the Nigerian Constitution. If that was the only part we choose to enforce in this country, that is guaranteeing security and welfare, the government has nothing is happening there. There are several human rights, there are several laws indeed that guarantees Nigerians' rights to express themselves, to protest, to do this, to express themselves as citizens. But what we have is that we have an institution of lawbreakers, not lawmakers. Insofar as the Nigerian people, if we do not actually rise up to fight for popular democracy and reject this current neoliberal arrangements, because what we have now, I keep insisting, is neoliberal democracy for them, dictatorship for us. You understand? It is very important that we rise up to it. And next year, the general elections is one opportunity to rise against some of the parties that represent neoliberal democracy. And also, we don't have to wait to the general elections. The street is always there to express our popular will and rejection of neoliberal democracy. We fight. So this is, it is only us who can and will end up defending and protecting ourselves. As for they know good life. If they don't know good life, if they don't like good life, I mean, they destroy the hospitals here, but they are putting themselves in ultra-modern hospitals in France. Our leaders had to say they go and die in UK. I've never seen a UK Prime Minister, a UK Parliament member die in Nigeria. Even the government official in Ghana died in a Nigerian hospital. Just imagine if Africa die in UCH. Our own presidents have died abroad in UK hospitals. They are dying in French hospitals. Even Aso Rock, the hospitals in Aso Rock, they can't take care of it. We are a disgrace. When Donald Trump, you see that when Donald Trump said in his tweet, said the now disgraced country, Nigeria, did you see any Nigerian people disagree with him? He said our leaders are a disgrace. The only dignity we have in the world, you understand, are the citizens who are representing us exceptionally well in the area of tech, in the area of sports, in the area of entertainment. Burna Boy is far more useful than the entire Nigerian government combined.
All right. These days we remain hearing a clamor for state police and community police everywhere. Now, how can this state or community policing now, if properly implemented, do you think it can help to improve human rights situations or even make it worse, from your own opinion?
State police is good. Community policing is good, but it will not solve the problem of human rights violation in this country. As a matter of fact, I think it will complicate it. You want to go and put police in charge of Wike in charge of police. Imagine Wike as governor and is controlling police. In fact, without controlling the police, he prevented EFCC officials from is it EFCC? I don't know those people. Another state of UK wanted to arrest a judge in Rivers State. He used police to stop it. You understand? We have seen what state governments are using, how state governments are using police to suppress their critique in their states. We have seen local government chairperson, local government chairman arresting people with police. We have seen what they are using Amotekun to do in some of these southwest states. Look at what is happening to with Isba. Have you had Isba arrested the big person in Kano? Have you seen Amotekun arrested the big man? You understand? So if we do not fix the institutional impunity, the lack of respect for dignity of the Nigerian people by state institutions, if the state police would not be a solution, it will turn out to be one of the greatest mistakes we have ever made if the problem of institutional impunity is not resolved.
Okay, so finally, rounding it all off, it's in your view, what does the way forward truly look like for Nigeria, where rights are respected?
Revolution.
That's a very simple answer. Not to complicate, straightforward revolution.
But for citizens now who feel powerless and the ordinary man in the street, like you just mentioned, the poor people, ordinary people who don't have backups, who don't have the financial money bags, behind them now, what would you advise as the most realistic avenues for seeking justice?
Nigerians are powerless when they are isolated, but they are powerful when they are organized. And this country forced city government to its knees. Endsars in this country, first disbanded an entire police institution and almost forced the government to its knees in this country. The end bad governance protest sent a cold shiver down their spine. Organizing. So Nigerians are not powerless. They are only powerless when they fail to organize.
Okay, that's all. Let's call it a wrap on the program today. We've had such an eventful, I should say, time today talking about the topic which we discussed about the human rights activism in the country. And remember to follow us on all social media platforms. But we appreciate those who joined us today. This is the current comment. Melody FM 07.7 on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, yes, from 4 p.m. 5 p.m. And today is a Tuesday edition. Tomorrow we will come again to do another edition with you before saying our byes for the week.
We will definitely must appreciate Mr. Julius Oworo. He is the national coordinator of the Take It Back movement. We appreciate your time and insights today. Thank you for joining us, and we do hope you keep the fire burning and don't be discouraged. Well, Nigeria's journey towards a more just society is ongoing, and conversations like this help us understand how far we've come and what more must be done. That's the program for today. Join us again tomorrow, like my colleague has mentioned, by 4 p.m. for another insightful edition of the program. Till then, I am Rolando Moira, saying enjoy the rest of your day.
And I am Oluwadamilola Ologun.